Thanks, Mr. Chair. Appreciate it. Dr. Krutka, the University of Wyoming, as well as the University of North Dakota, work on these regional carbon sequestration partnerships. And given, our collective desire to advance CCUS project, how important is it that DOE promptly distribute funding, the 22 funding, which we appropriated, for these regional partnerships?
Senator Hoeven, first let me say how grateful we are to work with the EERC in North Dakota. They're a great partner in all this, a world-class facility. I think releasing that FY22 funding for the regional partnerships is really critical. What we see in the Plains CO2 reduction partnership, and they still call it the Plains, even though Alaska and Wyoming are members. No hard feelings on that one, but we have a lot of momentum in that partnership, and what we're seeing more than ever before are commercial entities getting involved, and so we really feel that releasing that funding is important, and it's so important. Even not CO2 storage and hydrogen production are linked, and we feel like that it's really important to have those funds released.
Yeah, thank you. I totally agree, and that's exactly what we intended when we appropriated those funds, and so you agree that DOE needs to move and get these funds released to those partnerships as was intended by Congress, and do it now rather than mess around trying to figure out some new paradigm or something which was not in line with the intent of Congress.
Yes, Senator Hoeven.
Thank you. Mr. Zamarin, so you believe that we can use the natural gas pipeline infrastructure for hydrogen, and that's a workable proposition without changes to those pipelines?
I do believe that at blends, and we do have work to do to get to higher concentrations in pure hydrogen in all of our existing pipelines, but we believe that many of our pipelines will be capable of blends today, increasing concentrations, and ultimately 100% hydrogen.
At the same time, we need more pipelines as well as transmission lines, correct? And so talk a little bit about the importance of getting that additional infrastructure in order to move energy, whether it's traditional or renewable energy around this country.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, we still burn heating oil in New York City, and we can bring natural gas to New York City and displace dirtier fuels. We have over 75 coal power plants in our footprint alone that can still be repurposed to cleaner burning natural gas. It has been the best decarbonization tool in the United States for the last 10 years. We've talked about LNG exports. We believe that here and now, increasing the capacity for natural gas exports can be the greatest decarbonization tool around the world by displacing foreign coal, and we believe we can build that infrastructure in a way where it will be ready for the energy of the future, and if we can scale up a hydrogen economy, that infrastructure will be ready to deliver that product.
So, Mr. Powers, you believe that the Interstate Commerce Act is an optimal regulatory approach for hydrogen infrastructure compared to the Natural Gas Act. Why is that?
Thank you, Senator. First, let me say this. In terms of the natural gas pipelines and Natural Gas Act, if you're injecting hydrogen into the natural gas stream, then I believe the Natural Gas Act can and should apply. There are many pipelines. Alliance Pipeline, which comes from Canada, which have wet gas, and people inject into it butane and other products. And there are refined products pipelines that are regulated under the ICA, for example, that have gasoline, diesel, and so forth, and that people inject things like butane in them. But I think it's if you're talking about a hydrogen pipeline itself, not one that's governed by the Natural Gas Act, I think that the ICA structure is simpler. Now, there are going to be issues. People are going to talk about permitting and so forth, but I haven't seen where the Natural Gas Act's permitting structure has really helped get a lot of things built. I think it's problematic, and this is a very new industry, so I am reluctant to strap it with an infrastructure regime that grew out of another industry.
Number one thing we can do to get CCUS moving. Just number one thing. Start with Mr. March.
I think, Senator, the production tax credit has tax credits for the generation of blue hydrogen, as well as 45Q for storage. I think passage of those bills would dramatically impact and drive this industry.
Dr. Krupka?
45Q enhancements.
Mr.
Yeah,
Zander?
increasing 45Q to $85 a ton would make a huge impact.
Mr. Powers?
I believe focusing the regulation or development of this industry in one agency like the DOE or FERC would be very valuable. I also believe that an investment tax credit might be helpful, as it did in the solar industry years ago.
Are you related to Jim and Tom Powers?
Yes, those are my brothers.
Okay. You're obviously far younger, huh?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
Unfortunately not. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I know them both well. Thanks to all of you, appreciate it.